Hello, .fit family. We are so excited that you guys are here joining us. Me, Kat Bearfield, your registered dietitian with .fit, and of course, your fearless leader, Neil Spruce. And we are bringing to you more education on a really cool and I think underutilized product in our gyms, that is WorkoutExtreme. And of course, you know, Neil gets in his mad scientist mode with all the research, and he can't wait to share with you. So hope you guys have you know, something to take notes with. We are providing the slideshow as always. So if you were to look in the GoToWebinar window towards the bottom, it says handouts. If you expand that out, there's a PDF which you can download after the show, or maybe even now if you would like to. And of course, we've got about, what do you say, Neil, 20-30 minutes of content, and then Q&A?
Yeah, 20 minutes, 25. So then you stay on forever doing questions, which usually goes on for quite a while. It's kind of fun. That's the advantage of being on the webcast rather than recording it. You get to ask, and we just get to have fun towards the end.
Exactly. Okay, so you are in listen-only mode as always. We are going to record it, and then at the end, we'll open up for Q&A, which you're going to be able to type in the question and answer window there, and hopefully you guys learn a ton. I think you will. All right, Neil, take it away.
Okay. As you know, I always like to start by showing you the bottle and what we're starting with. So, oh, whoops, wrong one. Here it is. I start early. So the WorkoutExtreme, the new formula. All right, so let's get started. Okay, so I'm not seeing on mine, yeah. We'll get started. Okay, there we go. Okay, great. I know, you know what? Can we move this over? Yeah. I always have to have IT in here because I really don't. I keep. There we go. Oh, perfect. Good. Okay. All right. And as you know, I always like to start everything else. Sports nutrition is considered the new healthy aging. Now, this is a performance product, so keep that in mind. However, there is some sort of healthy aging around it as well. So we're going to talk about WorkoutExtreme today. And by the way, all the blue links on here are hot, so that you can download. That happens to be the PDSRG version, or your practitioner dietary supplement reference guide with all the peer-reviewed studies that support the formula. So we're going to go through goal, rationale, key points, and then the typical use of the WorkoutExtreme. You know, Kat did say that it is underutilized. I think the only place it's underutilized is maybe with clients, because you don't have that many people that might be using this as a pre-workout. They might use NO7, or they might not want caffeine or something like that. But where I know it's not underutilized with you guys, I think every trainer I know in a gym has got a bottle of WorkoutExtreme in their bag, using it to help them get through the day, because it does do a pretty good job with that all the way around. Okay, so let's get started. So I always like to start off with this. You guys understand what when we talk about performance nutrition, because we're in that category right now, right? Okay, so the first thing, I always got to make sure you understand this: the goal of performance and or muscle gain supplements, evidence-based only, we don't talk about the rest, are as follows. Now, first of all, when everything's equal, and that means baseline. So who on here at the end of this thing is going to tell me what baseline is? I've been in your clubs, all of you that are on here, you know, you've been seeing me in your clubs, and I say, what is baseline? What do we have to do for every person before we even go into all the cool stuff that we have? Okay, so the bottom line, what is baseline? So beyond baseline, so everything else is equal, baseline, your training, everything else is equal. If you supplement with something that's evidence-based performance enhancing, then you should improve performance and size outcomes compared to a non-supplement state, and that would help avoid plateaus. In other words, getting better as long as possible, which everybody wants to be able to do. I don't care if you're an athlete or not. I don't know anybody wants to get worse at any point in their life. Okay, so the objectives to accomplish that with performance supplements are supply energy enhancing compounds to maximize the training session or competition. So as you see what I put in red here, increase acute performance, so the performance of that session or competition, and the adaptation potential. Obviously, if you have a better session, you have now set the stage for a greater adaptation. Stronger, more intense workouts can lead to more gains. And these are the supplements that are evidence-based that can do that. Creatine, caffeine, which is what we're talking about today, beta-alanine, and of course carbohydrates, carbohydrate loading, and then there's also, you know, nitric oxide precursors, and then there's some buffering agents too. We don't discuss those here. And then two, the second part, targets for supplements to improve performance and or muscle gain is to speed recovery by minimizing the breakdown and maximizing synthesis. That's what it comes. So here you have, number one, you've set the stage for greater adaptation and obviously a better workout or better performance that one day with those supplements. But on the other side, you've also, now you can maximize the adaptation. It doesn't do any good to have a great workout if you don't do everything right at the back end. So this is basically what we're doing with supplements in the performance category. And the ones you see down here, as you can see, creatine crosses over to both, not only maximizes the acute training session and adaptation potential, but also maximizes adaptation. And then, of course, essential amino acids. And then glutamine is conditional during stressful conditions. And these are true evidence-based supplements for enhancing performance beyond the health and beyond stuff that we use for on the aging side. Okay, so let's get started with desired outcome. Okay, the use of these supplements properly accomplishing a greater and prolonged accrual of gains. And that's what you want, obviously, for the rest of your life. Okay, so let's get to Workout Extreme. Okay, now, you've got a summary. It's a powerful pre-competition or workout formula, or to get you through the day formula, to boost energy levels and delay fatigue without necessarily gaining weight. Because we don't have the creatine. It's like NO7 without the beta alanine and creatine, if you will. Now, what we do know that this does, clearly, it can create a greater desire to exercise, delay muscular fatigue, increase time to exhaustion, and improve reaction time, longer enhanced alertness and focus, and reduction in perceived exertion and pain. So this is, all these are related to caffeine, but taurine figures into this. Taurine is a complementary ingredient here, and you'll see what we did. I tripled the dose for you guys. When we came out with the new Workout Extreme this last year, we tripled the dose of taurine in here because of all the new science around it, which is pretty strong too. Okay, so what's the goal of Workout Extreme? Deliver a combination of ingredients that have been shown to increase time to exhaustion. You can go longer, delay fatigue, pretty much the same thing, especially in continuous intermittent intensity and endurance sports. So what we always thought caffeine was for was just endurance sports, because it would decrease your dependence on glycolysis and improve the amount of work that you did with fat, so you wouldn't hit the wall as soon, okay? But now we know caffeine works across the board all the way around. So the goal, so it works in intermittent intensity sports, just like football, soccer, anything that requires repetitive bursts of power and then periods of rest and then bursts of power again. We know it works for that. So basically across the board, while delivering cognitive benefits such as improving training desire, reaction time, and focus, all very important to any kind of sport. Okay, so, and combining caffeine and hydrous. Now, caffeine and hydrous, don't forget, is the molecule itself, all by itself, without, obviously the coffee or any other surrounding stuff, because that's the only way you can make it really accurate the way you want it. And then glucuronolactone and a clinically favorable dose of taurine. So you'll never see a formula. I haven't seen one that has this kind of perfect lineup of proper dosing all the way around. We'll take a look at it, okay? And then, of course, the whole goal is, this is a summary here, enhance motivation, improve training competition, mental and physical performance. So all the way across the board. So the rationale, and you guys all know this. This is, by the way, this is a download for you. That's why you see all the studies, all the references here. It ties to the PDSRG and some other documents as well. And I just have to, a lot of that's on there just for me too, just because these things actually go out to, different organizations that need all the peer review reference to support the documentation that we talk about. So, the three energy systems, the endurance activities rely mainly on fat and glycogen stores. Of course, that's your aerobic system. Strength and power activities rely mainly on, phosphocreatine and glycolytic energy. And then high intensity, of course, is your common to the intermittent athlete, runs across the gamut, all the way across the glycolytic system and the so you got a crossover, and of course the aerobic system, uses all energy systems. So again, what we didn't know before was that we didn't know caffeine could cross all the way around. So I just wanted to kind of remind you guys of all this here. But as you take a look at now, these ingredients have shown separately primarily caffeine, of course, and synergistically, caffeine, taurine, and glucuronidase to improve performance or acute training sessions in all three categories. And this is all from fairly new science, because we never even thought about it for power athletes before, or even intermittent athletes, that caffeine could be so positive, even though it's sort of innate. You think it would be from the simple fact that your brain, we know that you are more alert with caffeine. There's all types of other things that caffeine can lead to. So bottom line is, ingredients can enhance both physical and mental performance in any activity, because they primarily work to stimulate the central nervous system. So that brings us to, how does it do that? Okay, so speaking of which, and by the way, that's why I can't use Workout Extreme, because I pretty much drink coffee all day, and you don't want it within 4 hours of as much coffee as I drink anyway. And coffee is different now. You got to remember that. So we're going to, at the very end, we'll talk about that when we talk about responders and non-responders. All right. So let's look at caffeine's mechanism of action. All right. Number one. Now, this is, we didn't realize, we always known it could block adenosine receptors, right? We've always known that. Here's what it looks like. But what it does, not only throughout the central nervous system is where we really thought it was, in the blood, once it crosses the blood-brain barrier, but also in the peripheral nervous system. So in the muscular system, all other places besides the central nervous system. And that leads to a cascade of events that collectively work to enhance cognitive and physical performance. So if you look at the diagram here, you can see these receptors. So here's a cell membrane. You've got your receptors here. And adenosine, what happens, it's flying around the body. Why is adenosine flying around the body? When you're moving and you're breaking down ATP in order to keep moving, then you've got adenosine molecules flying around because of it, right? You're separating ATP and you've got adenosine, the base, flying around. So what that does is it goes into receptors to tell you to slow down. And it's a good thing it does, or we would just keep going until we died. So adenosine comes in, and caffeine is the same shape. It's got the same structure. So by taking caffeine 30 to 40 minutes, 50 minutes before an event, and we're talking about sports right now, I can occupy those receptors and help delay fatigue. And that's what's going on here. So this cute little cartoon kind of shows you. Caffeine is not allowing the adenosine to get into the brain, so it blocks it and it keeps you alert. And then that leads to this cascade of events. So I put a kind of a cool diagram you can kind of look at. But if you look at power, strength, speed, endurance, performance, these are the mechanisms of action. This is a great diagram from Slocum et al. That kind of shows what happens from that receptor blockage. It increases, obviously, the sympathetic nervous system first, so you're producing more catecholamines. And when that happens, wow, it's like, flight or fight. I mean, that's what's going on right now. You're able to increase reaction time, you increase your stress hormones go up, so you're reducing the rate of perceived exertion. I mean, all kinds of great things are happening, reducing pain, which also improves endurance performance. So then you have the glycogen-sparing effects. So it really is amazing what happens by blocking just the adenosine receptors. And this is fairly new. We didn't really know how this was all coming together. The second thing, a part of caffeine right here, inhibiting phosphatidylate esterase, which is an enzyme that breaks down cyclic AMP. Okay, so what happens is you want to keep AMP as high as possible. Again, that's another molecule. After you separate the ATP for energy, now you got cyclic AMP around. And when it stays high, it changes the way you draw energy, and it makes you draw from fat. And that's all we ever knew caffeine did in the old days. And so that's why it works for body fat reduction as well. So it's just repartitioning where you're drawing energy from by inhibiting this enzyme, because normally this enzyme would be very high. When cyclic AMP gets high, it gets very high. So by, again, binding with the receptors, we end up with caffeine increasing the central nervous system, blocking the PDE, as you see over there, right there, and that keeps cyclic AMP higher. And if cyclic AMP is high still there, then it's going to draw off fat, holding on to glycogen sparing. But this is also how it supports weight loss. So this is that's why I want to put this slide in here separately for you. You can see what it does here. It actually can improve satiety, and obviously it improves lipolysis, because that's what we're just talking about. Goal is to keep cyclic AMP as high as possible, and caffeine is a major molecule that can get that done simply by the same thing, though, by blocking ADP, or I'm sorry, blocking adenosine receptors from getting in there, and that keeps it high. And then, of course, that keeps the catecholamines up, so your epinephrine and norepinephrine. So there you have it. So there's basically the mechanisms of caffeine. And again, it all relates to blocking adenosine, really everything else that we talk about. So if I summarize it here, if you take a look at it, basically it's more neural than muscular. You know, even though we might have thought it was muscular a while back, it really is more neural, which leads to many different targets, primary and secondary one. By stimulating the central nervous system, by the blockage, you kind of get the rest of the stuff. It maintains the AMP, increases free fatty acid mobilization because you have a higher AMP, and that, of course, spares glycogen. And then, of course, you've got the stimulation of these hormones, which also decrease pain perception. That's a big one. Remember the fight or flight, that's what it does by that increase in hormone. And then the blockade also reduces ratings of perceived exertion. And these are all the studies here that I kind of support that from the PDSRG. And it may increase dopamine levels as well during that time, which and cause a buildup, which you get that better feeling all the way around. And most people know that if you don't have an adverse reaction to caffeine, it actually is there's a euphoria connected with it. And here's an original one here. It also can favorably alter calcium level in muscle. And of course, calcium regulation in muscle is how we make our contractions. And a better regulation back and forth between the sarcoplasmic reticulum and the muscle itself and the actin myosin. Caffeine, by blocking ADP, also can lead to this greater nitrogen oxide production and increased contractile force. So a lot of things we didn't know before, but it's still all related to just blocking adenosine. So that's the only takeaway point here. The molecule of caffeine fits right into that receptor, blocks it, and you get this cascade of events. So yes, it works. And probably considered the most powerful ergogenic aid of all. In fact, it's so powerful, for those of you that don't know, in the Olympics, they call it an unfair advantage. Now, of course, they can't stop people from drinking coffee or having caffeine, but they limit it. So you can actually do a urine test, and if your caffeine levels are too high, you can get disqualified, because there are people that can't use caffeine, and then it becomes an unfair advantage to you. That's how well it works. Okay, so in results, I just put this in here for you guys so you can see. Look at it. These are all, and look at the studies that support this are just never ending. So you've got, reduced fatigue. These are all the different studies things we've already talked about. But really, any mode of exercise performance, including endurance, high intensity sports like your regular 4-quarter sports, rugby, soccer, hockey, football, all those, and of course now strength and power. And with the reduced ratings of perceived exertion and pain reduction, that leads to increased performance. You just kind of push through it, So it's really an amazing drug, if you will. And of course, we'll look at and that brings us to this part. So here's some extra notes for you about myths and safety. Because, back in the old days when I was a kid, people said coffee was bad for you. And now there's been more studies on coffee than anything, because it's a ubiquitous sort. I mean, everyone drinks it. And it turns out it's actually good for you. Now, that's coffee. That's caffeine in coffee, of course. So there's many reasons it is. Not just in coffee, you've got the antioxidants and the polyphenols that are all part of the structure. But with caffeine itself, there's also a benefit to that, because decaf does not have the same benefits as caffeinated coffee. So keep that in mind. So we know it's safe, let's put it that way. In fact, a couple of myths here. One of the big ones is, it makes you go to the bathroom, or it makes you, it's a diuretic. It's not. And certainly not during exercise. At a very minimum, it is not during exercise. The only reason it would be a diuretic is because of the fluids that's in coffee. And they've done tons of studies where people would drink 6 cups of coffee versus 6 glasses of water, and maybe a little extra water came out in urine on the coffee drinker. So it's a myth that just does seem to persist, but it's just the fluids that you're taking in with it. Now, every time I drink Amino Boost, I have to go to the bathroom. That's only because I'm drinking 16 ounces of it. And of course, we know it's the water, it's not the Amino Boost. But caffeine does press a little bit, on one of the hormones that's involved with urination or getting diuretic. But it is so minor, it's almost not measurable on average. And it never affects diuresis during exercise. So that's all you care about, of course, if you're an athlete. And of course, it's a universal scientific agreement that caffeine is safe, as I just mentioned. 85% of US adults regularly ingest caffeine, and that's anywhere from 2 to 8 cups a day. And the majority is consumed as coffee, and of course, a significant amount is consumed in tea as well. And anything up to 400 milligrams a day, which is about 2.0 or 2.5 milligrams per pound in healthy adults, is not only classified as considered safe, but it's also associated with health benefits, including fat metabolism, reduced risk of disease, at least if it's in coffee or tea, because you get all the stuff that goes with it. We're not saying that this caffeine and this thing is going to give you any health benefit. And I would say no, don't even, we're not going there. But what I'm saying from this, it can't hurt you. There's no downside to it whatsoever. But again, caffeine is not for everyone, based on the fact that it's, a stimulant. And some people just have adverse reactions to any kind of stimulant. So there are some subpopulations out there that wouldn't respond well to it. On that note, responders and non-responders. If you look at all those studies that you see that I showed on those previous slides, all those numbers there, you'll see on some of them up to 30% are what we call non-responders based on a couple things. And one is their lifestyle. In other words, if they're a habitual user of caffeine, someone like me, and if I just all of a sudden decide to use WorkoutExtreme before a test or a study or a time trial or something like that, I might not have the same benefit. I might be considered a non-responder because I didn't improve my performance versus placebo. But there's also people that are what we call slow caffeine metabolizers, and that's a genetic polymorphism. And what happens is those people just don't metabolize it fast enough to be in the bloodstream during their performance. So they have a much longer half-life, but unfortunately of the active compound, but it takes forever to get there. So they don't have the same as well. And then there's flawed protocols. In other words, they didn't take the stuff right. They were using coffee rather than anhydrous, so they weren't able to get it. So every once in a while, you'll see what we call non-responders, but it's generally one of these particular reasons. Okay, now let's move on to taurine. All right, this is a big one. Taurine is like the superstar right now. In fact, it's considered, one of these anti-aging type compounds. And you can call it, in fact, Bruce Ames, who's one of my heroes, and I really like to study all this stuff. He calls it a longevity vitamin. And of course, it is, as you know, it is an amino acid, but it's not an essential one, but it's a conditionally essential one. But it really is kind of more like a vitamin structure. I mean, it's very important to our longevity all the way around. But let's take a look at it for why we have it in here. In skeletal muscle, taurine has, these are the main roles. One is to do the same thing caffeine can do, and that's facilitate calcium-dependent excitation of muscles, okay? So it is involved in all of that. And if you take a look at, I put a picture here of skeletal muscle, this kind of shows you taurine's effects on modifying the calcium in the sarcoplasmic reticulum, which is where there's a pump that brings calcium back and forth, back and forth. And during heavy depletion, taurine supplementation can make a big difference on lots of things, which may be where it's getting its performance enhancement products through there. Now, we didn't actually put it in here for this. It really wasn't about it improving your particular muscular performance. It really was a more cognitive, which we'll look at in just a second. But because it is involved in regulation of cell volume, which is very important also to recovery and protection in the body, and it also has an antioxidant defense system. Whenever taurine gets low in the body, it's like glutamine. If it gets low, you get in trouble. So supplementation during high stress situations can make a big difference. But that's why we think this is probably what's leading to that. When you look at studies with taurine right around 3,000 milligrams, that's why I jacked it up so high. There may be a benefit on the performance side as well in the muscle. But let's start with the brain here. All right, so there are actions in the brain here. The whole goal here is to increase mitochondrial functions and cerebral blood flow, which we know it does. It also increases signaling ability in the nerve cells, all right, because of its effect on calcium. And then it's also, we already saw that, involved in the cell volume, which is in the brain, it is the most osmotically active molecule. So that protects the brain. So we get some really good firing going on nonstop here, as this picture sort of depicts. But then if you take a look at how this protects the brain, which is why it's being considered for aging population right now in high doses, protect against environmental toxin, dysfunction of the mitochondria, which we saw up above as well, and against the exotoxicity, which is the overstimulation of the brain, which again, caffeine might cause. So this can also help mellow it out all the way around. But also the inflammatory process and neurodegenerative disorders as well. So there's a lot of benefits here to taurine, and this dose, that's different. Otherwise, there's not. If you look at, when you're looking, other than a taurine supplement by itself, when you're looking at its mixture in other formulas, whether they're cognitive or energy, you just don't see them in the right dosages matching everything. All right. And then again, here's where it kind of complements caffeine here. It does interact with certain neurotransmitters like caffeine does, but it may be additive in a positive way, which we'll see at the very end here. Okay, and then glucuronolactone, this is one of those things. I mean, I can go ahead and put it in there. There's not a whole lot of science around it, but you see it in Red Bull, you see it in everything. We put it in NO7. I think it's more of a marketing thing than anything else. People see that on there. Oh, that's cool. It's got glucuronolactone, which is, it's also fun to say, glucuronolactone. But the point is that, there's not a whole lot. There's evidence it may function as a detoxing agent and a little enhancement maybe in some carbohydrate usage. But it's a common component in energy drinks. So I did go through all the studies that use combinations. And there are a few out there. It's hard to find them, I will tell you that. But I did go through all of them, and it probably took me a couple months to really review them carefully. But here was the aha moment that changed our formula. So when you look at these three in combination, or now all 34 didn't have all of these three together, but they had taurine and caffeine for sure. All right, but if you looked at this, and this is a meta-analysis, 34 studies on physical performance in several physical and sports situations that include jumping, include all kinds of different things. And that was endurance, most, intermittent sports, all of it. They found the degree of improvement, and here it was associated with the taurine dosage. And so when you saw only 1,000 mgs or 2,000, it had to hit above 2,500 mgs in order to be better than caffeine by itself. And that was the aha moment. So that's when we put in the 3,000 mgs and changed it. And I would argue it is so much better than anything you're going to find that's dealing with this particular goal of enhancing performance in each acute bout of exercise and an endurance competition of some type as well, any way you look at it. So suggesting that taurine would be the additive effect to caffeine, and which is why we did that. So that was the aha moment for us and the change in the formula. So, and again, the other thing we know for sure, what I do like about glucuronolactone is that when we looked at it in these meta-analysis, that it was, when it was combined with caffeine, it allowed people to get the same benefit on a lower dose with caffeine. And that was pretty cool. So that's one thing that we could actually kind of hang our hat on with glucuronolactone. And with taurine too, it also brings down the amount you need of caffeine, which would be helpful to people that can't tolerate it that well. Okay, so summary real quick. Deliver a combination of ingredients that demonstrate the ability to increase time to exhaustion or delay fatigue. And that's basically what it comes down to, at the end of the day. And reduce pain, or the feeling of the amount of work you're doing, and especially in pretty much all sports. I always have especially endurance sports and intermittent intensity sport. What else is there? Okay. Anyway, recommend doses. The recommended doses gives your user potential to improve training sessions and competition outcomes when compared to no supplementation. So it's just a quick little benefit. But I like this part too, positive cognitive benefits, because don't forget, that's all part about playing ball. That's all part about a good workout, is being focused, being able to do that, reaction time. All those things are important in sports as well. And then again, at the end of the day, it's for any adult not bothered by stimulants. You can use it as a pre-workout or event energy enhancement supplement. And again, if you're not trying to gain weight or anything, because it doesn't have the creatine in there that would cause that, or beta alanine that might take it to a different level. But the bottom line is you can use it either way. Now here's another one here I want you to remember. You shouldn't be mixed with other stimulants. And I know that seems logical, but you'd be surprised how many people forget they had a couple of cups of coffee in the morning before they got up. Now they go to the gym, they pop 5 workout extremes out, probably wouldn't be too good. You might get some heart palpitations with that. So do try to, or NO7 too. Yeah, or thermic cell for that matter. But that's why I say, you really don't want to be taking it around anywhere around, 4 hours within other stimulants of any type, and of course before you go to bed as well. So basically, it's a summary of pre-activity. I say pre-activity because maybe it isn't. Maybe it's just a day. Pre-activity supplements deliver greater overall training or competition outcomes without necessarily gaining weight. So there's your summary of the whole product. Unique features, as I think I've driven this home all throughout this short little webinar, and that is it's a rare combination of clinically effective doses of both caffeine anhydrous and taurine, where taurine may significantly amplify caffeine's well-known enhancements. And we also have a rapid release capsule. So again, we want it in your system 30 to 40 minutes before you need it. And then we also have the ideal dosings for any activity, which I'm going to give you next, and here it is. All right, so this is the ideal way of taking it. Now, there's, again, I want to make sure you look at the whole thing. So for short to long-term duration and endurance activities, so running, cycling, any of these, you would take 5 capsules, 40 to 60 minutes before activity. So that'd be about 350 mgs. Unless you're caffeine sensitive, then you got to start with half. So we always warn people of that. Now, that's why you always want to experiment if you're going to actually use it for the competition day. And I'm going to show you how to use it for competition day versus using it daily. All right. Now, if you want to do the math, this is what it looks like from the studies: 1.4 to 3 mg per pound of body weight, not to exceed 600 milligrams a day. And you would take it for, so that actually breaks down, for some people it might be more than 350, and for some people it might be less. So that's the real true number from studies that showed a positive outcome, the 1.4 to 3 mg per pound. But that's just hard for people to do. And by the way, it's illegal for us to put it that way in the label because the FTC and FDA don't think people can do the math. And I would tend to agree with them to a certain extent. You can really screw it up if you don't do it, if you don't put the capsule dosing on there. Now, if you're competing, you would experiment to achieve the proper dose and abstain from all caffeine. Now, there is some, and someone on here might even argue with me on this one. There is some evidence that you don't have to abstain. But when I look at it there, if you're really going to use it for a competition, I would abstain because if anything, it favors that side. It favors the side of abstaining where your body isn't getting used to the caffeine and you'll get that bump up for that. But I'll show you how to do that in just a second. Okay, so proper dose and abstain from all caffeine, including Workout Extreme, 2 to 4 days before competition. So that's how you would use it there. And for your intermittent athletes, so the endurance athlete was on the top. Intermittent athletes, it's the same thing, right? You can see it's the same thing as it was for the short and long-term endurance athlete. Now, any adult, another one, dosage for any adult, not bothered by stimulants. We already saw that, can take it just to get you through the day, a daily pick-me-up, which could be all of you here, okay? And then finally, if you're using it regularly, it is recommended to cycle use 3 weeks on. Now, they're using it all the time, and again, I mean, there's so much kind of myths and quackery about adrenal burnout, but I would just say if you're using it all the time, it'd be 3 weeks on and at least 1 week off. Now, so just keep that in mind. Or you only use it before as needed before activity. So you might skip a day here, do another day, skip a day here, do that. Now, if you're going to compete, here comes the big one. Now, you're not going to be able to read this very well, so I will send it to anybody that wants it. Kat, make sure you make a note of that. If you're competing, use the stack instructions. And I had to make a, well, here's my disclaimer. Remember at the end there, don't take within 4 hours of other products there, especially coffee, energy drinks. People just don't even remember what they're drinking these days before they take stuff. So I just want to keep that reminder there. All right, so here's what it looks like in a stack. And I know this is like an eye chart. You can't see it. I just kind of take a picture of it and put it there. There's your baseline stuff on top, so you can just ignore that. But go to the workout day. So 6 weeks before competition. So this is what we call an endurance stack. So we use this for Olympic athletes, for highly competitive ultra endurance athletes. This is the way it works, okay? 6 weeks before competition, you would add your muscle defender, obviously, as you know, because of the stress these athletes go through, and add the ultra probiotic. But there's the Workout Extreme there. All right, you see where it says here now, you say, if you're not adverse to caffeine, obviously, and you would go like this. Do not take any other stimulants, including caffeine, within 4 hours of this. 5 days before your competition, discontinue Workout Extreme and all other caffeine intake. Remember I said abstain. On competition day, take your normal dose as described above, 5 capsules and so forth, unless caffeine supplements. Now, so this is something you're using regularly, but if you take it here, what I'm looking at is the note here that tells you take 5 days. I'm looking for, okay, for capsules, activities, and less caffeine sensitive in case you take 2. There's a note here, though, that tells you how to use it during training days. Okay, it's not in this one. I got the wrong one up here, guys. Yeah, so that what you want to, if you want, what you're doing on training days, you're using it like 3 days on and 2 days off. I'm looking for, I don't see it up there, Chad. I don't know what I did with it there. Yeah, because we want you cycling on. So 6 weeks before you add, when you 6 weeks before, so you're going to start using it kind of like on a regular basis. But you're only going to use it like 3 days on, 2 days off, 3 days on, 2 days off during those 6 weeks until you come before. So I'll update this one. This is an old one, I guess. You would actually, 3 days on, 2 days off, 3 days on. And that's for your trainings for 6 weeks, right? And then 5 days before you drop it all and then do your full load on that. Yeah, so I apologize for that, guys. I don't know what I do it every other day. Oh no, there it is. I'm sorry. It is there. Every other day. There it is. Yeah, I got it. Okay, every other day, take 5. So that way you got 1 day on, 1 day off, all the way down through the 6 weeks. That's it. That's it there. Okay. See, now you know I don't use it. I'm a little too old to compete in these endurance events. And not that I ever did. I'm a total anaerobic guy for sure. Anyway, so that's it. Yeah, so every other day, every other training day, you would take the 5 capsules. And that gives you that break in between. And then, of course, 5 days before, nothing, and then load it up and go. Okay, I think that's it. Kat, let's open it up.
Okay. Who has questions? Who has questions? Who has questions? Okay, I see some coming in already. Hi, Bernice. Good to have you here all the way from Hawaii.
Bernice in Hawaii?
Yeah. Yep, Chris has got a
mango tree. Hi, Bernice.
Okay, so can this be taken on the same day as NO7 Rage? Is the caffeine content of both in one day too high? Question mark. For example, for those who train twice per day, could they use NO7 Rage for one workout and Workout Extreme for the second, morning/afternoon, at least 4 to 5 hours apart from one another, and 5 hours before bed? I think she covered it all, but go ahead, Neil.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you can. There's no reason in the world you couldn't do NO7 at one workout, and you're, more hours down the road, use that. Use your Workout Extreme. Just be cognizant. You don't want to go over 600 mgs a day of caffeine generally for anybody, unless you're a giant. Then you can. And by the way, it's very personal. Everybody tolerates caffeine a little bit differently. So as long as it's not bothering you and you're sleeping okay, there's no reason doing NO7 once and doing your Workout Extreme another time, as long as they're separated apart for 4 or 5 hours.
Okay, I hope that clarifies things for you, Chris. Okay, here's a good question for y'all. She says, sweet, thanks. Hey, Jason. So Jason has a question. Is it okay to take Workout Extreme 2 to 3 times a day for training purposes? Also, all my clients that take Workout Extreme act like crackheads if they can't get it.
Well,
so for those
I would, you could say, you can argue that caffeine is addictive. There's no question about that. Look, I'm addicted to coffee, for God's sake. And so are 85% of the adults in the world. And it's, and it's good for you, so there's no problem there. But yeah, when you say 2 or 3 times a day, I don't know if I would do the full dose 2 or 3 times a day. If you could do 3 capsules one time and 3 another, a few hours later, because I'll give it to you this way. The half-life of caffeine is anywhere between 4 and 6 hours in the bloodstream. And half-life, what that means is After about 60 minutes after ingestion of a full dose, you are now at a pharmacological level in your body of caffeine, the molecule. And it's doing all the things we just saw it can do. From there, now what's happening is, after it starts to slowly metabolize and go down, in about 4 hours, you are no longer at that pharmacological level, but you still have some in the body. So like in the drug world, that's when you take your second dose of drugs, when you're supposed to take 2 or 3 of something a day. They call that half-life, and that's pretty much what you're getting there. So as long as you're separated by that time, you're okay. And you can kind of build it back up. So you might want to maybe take the full dose once, and then you take 2 another time later on if you want to do it multiple times.
Okay, Jason, I hope that answered your question, right? But if they're taking it all day, Neil, like if you think about it, a venti coffee has what, like 300, 350?
Well, a Grande's got 350. A Vente's got 400.
Yeah.
It's right there at the top.
So if they're doing 2 or 3 of those a day.
Yeah. Well, exactly. That's what I'm saying. That's why I was trying to say to Bernice, it's very personal.
Right.
And that's why what's great about it being in 5 capsules, you can control it.
Right.
Other than we all put it in one thing, so you can control the amount that you take. So I would experiment with it, just like coffee.
Absolutely.
The taurine, I don't think you can get enough of it, to tell you the truth. So you don't have to worry about that being too much, no matter how much you take.
Okay, so here's a follow-up on coffee. So why not just consume caffeine for coffee?
Say that again.
The question is, why not just consume caffeine and get it from coffee?
Yeah, well, here's the problem with that. As you know, there's no way of knowing the dosage. So if you're using it directly, which is why I have it here. Oh, let's see here, under here. Yeah, that's why we have anhydrous only. Anhydrous gives you the accurate. So when we look at all these studies here on caffeine's mechanisms of action, it is the use of anhydrous. It is not coffee itself. You say purified caffeine. We want to remove it because you can't control the caffeine content in coffee. You don't even know what it is. You can guess, you can look it up on Starbucks website, but you don't know that. And then you got to drink that in order to get it. But anhydrous is just a target. We know exactly what that is, and it's stripped out everything else that goes along with it because that's what you're looking for. So that's the difference. When you look at all the studies that we cited here, 95% are all done with caffeine anhydrous because it's just too hard, too difficult to be able to target the right amount. And how fast can you drink that Vente to get the 300 mgs? Other than that, like me, I don't use Workout Extreme only because I drink my caffeine in coffee, but I'm using coffee more of a kind of an emotional thing. I'm emotionally attached to drinking coffee, regularly up till about 2 in the afternoon. I'll get anywhere from 4 to 6 cups a day. So I certainly get all the caffeine I need, along with all the other stuff that's in coffee that may give it the health benefits. And by the way, on that note, health benefits really maximum health benefits come around 6 cups a day. We see the decrease in cognitive and dementia, in all type, decrease in Parkinson's diseases, decreases in heart disease, decrease in diabetes, decreases when you start getting up between 4 and 6 cups a day of coffee. And we don't know how much the caffeine. Now, decaf doesn't have those same benefits, but it does have some of the benefits. So we know that coffee has something to do with the coffee itself, the beans, the polyphenols in there, which work as antioxidants. That's why it takes so many cups in order to get that benefit, is because you're not taking it in a pill. I don't mean the caffeine. I'm talking about the antioxidants and everything else. You're taking it in a fluid, so it's really diluted, at that particular time. So yeah. I think that's it. You have anhydrous. If you're using it to improve performance, or if you're going to use it and someone to do the final answer to the question, if you're using it like I do, get it from coffee. If you're using it to improve performance, then you want to target exactly the right dosage. And don't forget, what wouldn't you get? You don't get the taurine. There's no taurine in coffee.
Yeah.
Don't forget that.
Good point. Okay, so Jason has a follow-up question. Speaking of emotional attachment, so I should probably recommend a lower dosage for those that are taking it 3 times a day, including myself. LOL.
I would.
He says, I take a full dosage 3 times a day, but then again, I guess I'm cray-cray. No, Jason.
That's why taurine does a good job of taking that excitatory, the excitement, what coffee overexcites cells. That actually kind of blunts it. Taurine does a good job, which is probably you're doing fine with it. long as you're not getting heart palpitations, Jason. But after I got done with my coffee, I start here.
Okay. Another question. Anna wants to know, she says, I have to compete in a full Ironman. Can I combine with the salt pills and gummies?
And gummy.
And gummies. Anna, can you clarify what you're getting from the gummies? Yeah, what are you getting from the gummies, Anna? And I'll go to the next question while you're typing in.
Well, without a doubt, use this with your salt pills for sure.
Yeah.
If you're ultra endurance, you definitely want to experiment with this. And don't forget, when you're going to do this, you experiment with Workout Extreme the way I explain it there in your off season. So you know exactly what works best for you. And
Okay.
yeah, take your salt pills, with it, no problem at all. But I don't know what the gummy is. Carbohydrate. Carbohydrate?
Probably, that's what I would think.
That's what I'm guessing. It's a gel. A carbohydrate gel that you use.
So Anna, type in, let us know what you're getting out of the gummies.
Yeah, that's what it is. That's absolutely no problem with your carbohydrate gel, because you've got to have that.
Okay, so she says yes, they're like carbs and caffeine. Sometimes they have caffeine, so I think you have to look at total dosage then.
Yeah, just look at the dosage there. But you're going to be fine with 350 of ours, even with a little caffeine in your system from something else. That won't be any problem.
Yeah. So the answer is yes. Just make sure that you experiment, Anna, so that you get the right
caffeine, and then make sure you experiment.
Yeah.
You don't want to just do all this on the day you compete.
Exactly. Okay, hold on. Let me scroll down and get the rest of them. Okay. Bernice wants to know, I love the Workout Extreme. I use it as a pick-me-up when I can't get a cup of coffee. So the question is, I know you mentioned to cycle it 3 weeks on, 1 week off. Is this for people who use it daily?
Yes, correct. It's for people that use it daily. And again, you don't have to. It's just, it's almost like, I think we say 3 weeks on. Yes, that's 3 weeks on, 1 week off is what I wrote in there. So, you don't have to. I mean, listen, I don't ever take a day off from coffee. So, I mean, you don't have to. It's just kind of one of those things that if you're using it, give your body a little bit of a rest off it and then drink coffee, maybe, we just kind of threw it in there. There's no real science to that. There is, though, in the way we do it, one on, one off, 6 weeks before your event, like that, and then completely off and then load up. There is some to that. So we're just kind of we're just trying to make sure that we get that complete washout. And if you're stacking it every single day, then it gets a little harder to do that. But if you're using it just for a regular pick-me-up, you could probably do it each day. You might have to take that week off.
Yep. Okay, good. All right, so question on taurine. Are you saying that taurine would be like a neurotransmitter to get the caffeine into your system faster, or more just of a support?
Say that again.
Clarification on taurine. Is it like a neurotransmitter to get the caffeine into your system faster, or is it more of a support?
No, it has nothing to do with speeding up the caffeine. Caffeine will get in there on its regular time. Taurine is involved in neurotransmission by maintaining neurons and giving the health to the brain. Okay, so that things fire faster and everything else. So by itself, it does some stimulation not stimulation, but it participates in the central nervous system with everything by giving the brain protection. I think we had it here when you get to taurine here. And again, this is in the muscle here, but if you look at the brain, and that's why what happens is, obviously, as we get older, the brain doesn't do well because our mitochondria function, like everything, just starts to decrease. But taurine can increase the blood flow to the brain and continue to increase it, and that increases the signaling ability. So that's what you're actually getting there. So this is more on the cognitive side than anything else. Now, the 3,000 mg can also help the calcium content and regulating calcium in the muscle. That's what I had on the slide here. Oops. On here. So again, not unlike what caffeine does, but from a completely different mechanism.
Okay, here's a good question for you, Neil, from Chris. She says, I read a study that beta-alanine can deplete taurine stores. Is this why there's 2 grams of taurine in NO7? And would Workout Extreme help further mitigate the depletive effect of beta-alanine if that's really the case?
Yeah, I think, and first of all, any stress, whether it's, because beta-alanine can obviously increase the workout, increasing the stress, it's going to deplete taurine. Okay, whether it's actually antagonizes the taurine in the body from the actually molecular structure of beta-alanine might be a little suspect, but it could. I suppose it could, and whatever you've seen there is interesting. But anytime you're at a high stress, I think taurine needs to be added back, and that is why taurine is in there. It wasn't so much for the beta-alanine, it was just to ameliorate some of the stress, because NO7 is going to give you a much better workout, and there's some pretty heavy, and then once you get past what the body can do and you start bumping it up, with stuff like NO7, you're definitely going to be doing some taxing there. Taurine's depleted, glutamine's depleted at a quick, which is why we end up with the taurine. But taurine's also in the NO7 for the cognitive part, don't forget. Keep that in mind.
Okay, yeah, hope that answered your question, Chris. Okay, how would you compare Workout Extreme to a product you used to have, like pyruvate? Are they similar?
Oh, no. Pyruvate was nothing more than a molecule that once it gets into the Krebs cycle, or right outside the Krebs cycle, it would increase the use of fat for energy. And, that was really all that was. You had to take massive dosages of it. So it wasn't practical, which is the only reason we stopped, making it years ago. It's nothing more than that. So it's involved in really a different type of fat and energy metabolism. Nothing compared to this. This is completely different, being a central nervous system stimulant.
Cool.
And pyruvate, of course, had no stimulants whatsoever.
Okay, so who would this product be ideal for? Could you cycle between, if your goal is muscle gain, could you cycle between Workout Extreme and NO7 Rage?
The answer to that's yes, sure, absolutely. No reason you couldn't, as far as that goes. But who's it ideal for is right here. I mean, that's for sure. I put them all in here in the beginning. You look at. Yeah, right. I mean, if look what you're losing in NO7, your creatine's gone, your beta-alanine's gone. And that's one of the reasons we made Workout Extreme. There it is there. That's one of the reasons we made Workout Extreme, was because there are people that don't want beta-alanine at all. And that way you can use Workout Extreme with creatine monohydrate. You can get very creative with all the different stuff that we actually have there that are evidence-based. But here, basically, all exercise and athletes not bothered by stimulants if you want to delay fatigue or prolong performance. And that's basically it. So you're talking about intermittent athletes, football, baseball, soccer. And again, whenever you're dealing with cognitive, I don't know if you saw that Zane put on the Instagram. He said, .fit, you can see us entering into the e-gaming world with Workout Extreme. This is the ideal product for esports, let me tell you. I mean, this is Red Bull on steroids. This is exactly what you want for that. So perfect for that type of person as well. Even though they're not moving their body that much, the brain and the functioning of the brain with caffeine and taurine is amazing. So basically anyone.
Okay, good. So another question about dosages. What dose would cause a positive drug test?
Oh yeah, I got that in there. If you go to the PDSRG, let's see. This won't even come close, by the way. This is like half. But I wrote it in here for Olympic athletes. Let me see if I can find it here.
I remember number 10, Neil. Is it 10 milligrams per kilogram?
Is that what it is?
That's the number I remember, but don't quote me on it.
Could be. So here, perceived exertion. Are they able to see this, what I'm looking at right now, Kat?
Yep.
Okay, good. So right here, because we work with Olympic athletes, here it is right here. Caffeine and regulation in sports. Okay, so supplementation 1 to 4 mg, which is what we talked about, right? For exercise effective performance aid and their respect discussed throughout here. Right, that's what it is. So now users have no reason to be concerned how much caffeine they ingest with recommended safety limits. Acceptable caffeine for NCAA athlete is 15 micrograms per milliliter of urine, okay? You will never get there taking this dose. You could double this dose and you wouldn't get there. Now, the CYA statement, you guys all know what that means, cover your ass, is you may be an extreme slow metabolizer and take 2 doses before you took your urine test, and maybe you would fail. Who knows? But this is everything you need to know is right here. So it requires about 600 to 900 milligrams of caffeine to be consumed within 2 hours. And I'll tell you what, that's going to hurt. So that's what it would take to fail that drug test for the average person. So that's it.
Okay, good. All right, so another question from Jason. He's seeing a lot of Workout Extreme in the gym. It's one of the products I've gotten all of our trainers to help focus on recommending to their clients, especially during challenges. With that said, we do come across a lot of people that are sensitive to caffeine. Will you make something as powerful as Workout Extreme that will help people that are sensitive to caffeine?
No. Trust me, I would if I could. Nothing touches caffeine. It is it. I mean, at the end of the day, doesn't mean we won't find something that could get you to feel. One of the things that I know, actually, we took it out was ginseng. If you get the right ginseng, and these are all imported from different areas. They have to be grown in special soil, special seasons, special light. In the U.S., we don't have any American ginseng. American ginseng isn't quite the same. But there is some adaptogens out there that we certainly look into. We kind of stay ahead of, but we haven't been able to see any real. That's why you don't see it on the evidence-based list. When you look at evidence-based supplements, whether it's put out by IOC or whether it's put out by ISSN, International Sports Society. Nutrition, they're the ones that they'll list what are evidence-based, which means it has more than enough science to back the use of it that it works for the vast majority of users. So I haven't found anything yet. Not that we'll keep going after it, but somehow you got to tap into the central nervous system. You got to get to that fight or flight place, or you're probably not going to push the envelope as hard some other way. But there are some, some herbs, adaptogens out there that have some good empirical data. Empirical data means it's not evidence-based. They don't have clinical trials to support it, but there are some experiences that doctors or sports scientists in different countries have had with these things that have been very positive, and they've documented those. So we call that empirical evidence, and they survived the test of time. So I think there's something out there. We just haven't found it yet.
Okay, so Bernice has a good suggestion. What about the bars that used to have caffeine in it?
I know. We just couldn't sell them fast enough. We had to throw half of them away.
Yeah, they weren't.
I think the problem with that, Bernice, is caffeine's in everything these days. In fact, it's a problem because everyone's spiking everything with caffeine because they're trying to get you to keep buying it. So you got to be careful these days. And so that's not what we just stopped doing that only because, we couldn't sell them fast enough.
Okay, so what are the new products that are coming out?
Okay. So, you ready? I wish I had a list in front of you. I got Chad here, though, so he can help. So we've got the creatine extreme creatine, which is XXXXL now in a powder form. So you're going to have creatine, glutamine, big doses too, creatine, glutamine, and beta-alanine, the 3 only now. 2 scoops will have 5 grams of creatine, so a maintenance dose for most, and 3.2 grams of beta-alanine and 7 grams of glutamine in 2 scoops. So you can go 4, and now you got a really pretty heavy-duty dose all the way around, or you can just go with the 1 and 2 scoops, and then you can add your creatine monohydrate the way you want. You can add glutamine when you want if you want to get to 20. So it's the perfect standalone for like maintenance after you've loaded, and then it also can be added to with the other stuff. So we finally got rid of the pills, and I know that's like the #1 thing in everybody's mind, and it will be NSF certified for sport. So we were just waiting to get that done. So please, the sooner you sell the pills out, I'll have that for you. So get rid of them. But next month. It'll be out next month. So that's the big one everybody's been waiting for a long time. And then you've got our vegan amino boost. So we've been working on this for a long time. We just couldn't get the taste right. with stevia, but we're getting closer and closer to it. And I know everybody wants as much as they can of vegan. That's a big one. We've got a great vegan line now since we came out with a vegan multi, as you know. We have a very extensive one. But the amino boost is really important. And the only thing not vegan about that is the fact that the leucine comes from duck feathers. So it's the only one. Everything else is bacteria based. So the new one will be, they'll have a vegan. And what flavor is it?
Lemonade, right?
Oh, the one they're going to
vegan
is going to be orange pineapple.
Orange pineapple, the vegan, right?
What? Orange pineapple?
Pineapple, yeah. And then what else? What else we got? We got enzymes. We're going to be getting enzymes because old people like me need them. So we're getting the enzymes here real soon. What else?
Digestive enzymes,
Oh,
Neil?
yeah, we have the cookie dough Lena Mar, so we're changing that flavor. But we've also an orange creamsicle pre-post as well. So we're adding some flavors, extensions to some of the powders. But there was something else there that I'm trying to think. We got the vegan multi out.
Peach mango.
Oh yeah, peach mango amino boost will be coming out, but that's not until it's not till March. Yeah, so we're getting another flavor of that. So remember now, mostly we're going to have flavor extension, except a few things. Once we get the market big enough, like of course the vegan is just an extension of the products that we have already for that. But the market's got to get big enough. I'd love to make a whole bunch of stuff, and you got two criteria. One of it to be evidence-based, or I can't make it, which is why we don't have that crazy line of supplements that you see in stores, because most of it doesn't work. So you got that issue. And then the other issue is you've got to be able to produce at least 1 million at a time to get the price affordable for people to be able to buy. And then, of course, we make the formulas so they work. So that drives the price up because you've got, more raw materials in it because they work. We don't just have the window dressing like the mass market does, where they have ineffective dosages for half the stuff in order to compete on price. So you got those issues there. Flavor extensions, and we have new wafer bars coming out very soon. Just new bars as well. So I think that's about it there. But again, we're continually doing, so the enzyme thing is really the one new formula for sure, all the way around.
Neil, did you say we were bringing back prenatals?
Bringing back what?
The prenatal formula?
Oh, yes. The prenatal, yes, we are. We're bringing that back. I have to because, my little world tour I'm doing on womb to tomb. I got to put my money where our mouth is. We did it with Apex because we were all having kids then, Kat. So, we had thousands of employees, thousands and thousands. And so we always had to have a prenatal for everybody. But the joke was, if you took an Apex prenatal, you were going to have a 10-pound baby. Both my boys were 10-pounders. Good thing my daughter was born early, so she would have been probably 11 or 12-pounder.
Or Christina.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. So yes, we'll be back with a prenatal very soon.
So, Jason,
by the way, you should know, everybody on the call here, that I'm always updating the formulas. Our new multi, I just updated the kids multi, that with the choline, which is huge. Our new multi is going to have choline. I'm working on it right now, and you can kind of see what I'm working on here. I don't know if you can you see that, Kat?
Yeah. We can see it.
This is your new multi, everybody. Oops, forget that. Scotch there. Okay.
He's a mad scientist.
These are all the new studies that are supporting what the dosages and formulas will be. So, we'll never stop doing that. The antioxidant probably next year will go also be updated with some of the new stuff that's out there right now. So all of the stuff we have are always upgraded. I updated the multi just a couple years ago with vitamin K. We're the first ones ever to put the 2 forms of vitamin K in a multi. Back in originally, we're the first ones to put that much vitamin D, and of course everybody's doing that now. So whatever we do, you're going to get obviously a very strong participation with anything new in science.
Awesome. Well, Jason Aubrey wants to be a guinea pig for the extreme triple creatine XXL.
Yeah, for all you people that get on the webcast, I always appreciate having the people that take the time off rather than downloading it, listening
right.
to it. We should probably get everybody one of the samples. We'll figure it out.
All right. Yeah. So we have all of your names. Last call for questions, you guys. I think we're 4 minutes past the hour, so thank you so much for staying with us. If you have any more questions, please type them in.
I'll have my email if you missed something, neil@dotfit.com. You guys all have that. You got cats. So anything we miss on this, you can always hit us up. We always answer you. And we also, you guys probably don't even know, we answer your clients' questions. You know, we have that Ask the RD thing now, and we get a ton of those a day, and they're coming from your clients. So we're supporting you on that side as well.
Exactly. And if you didn't download the PDF handout of Neil's slides today, you can still do that in the GoToWebinar window. Just open up the handout section and download that PDF. Otherwise, shoot me an email if you have a problem getting that. Next month, we'll come to you with more free education once again. Do you know what you're covering?
Increase in XXL next month. I mean, I'm sorry, Extreme creates an XXXL, XXX. I added an X, but it's a plus on the end. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that's going to be a really cool formula. I mean, all the way around, because what you can do with it as a standalone and add-on. Yeah, so hopefully we'll have it out by then. That way I can do the webinar on that, Kat.
Yeah, we can post it to the website, to the PDSRG as well.
Yeah, it's already done. PDSRG is already done. That's how we get the formula the way it is.
Okay, so we'll put the new creatine triple XL up on the PDSRG website. We did move that, so if you didn't notice, is now we have to be logged in as a trainer. And once you're logged in as a trainer, you can access the PDSRG from that left navigation window. So
what I always love to tell everybody, you guys, is that you should just get that URL and put it on your phone. So anytime you can just click it right off the home page of your phone, and it pulls up the PDSRG.
There you go.
You do that.
All right, guys. Thanks so much for joining us.
Have a great weekend. Thanks for hanging out. See you soon. I'll see you in the field.